What's up, everyone? This is the Life Extension Research channel, and I'm talking with Roen. He has a channel called the Eternal Life Fans. It's a great channel. I highly recommend you subscribe to it. And yeah, we're gonna talk about life extension research today because not enough people talk about it. First off, which is horrible. And so hopefully we can help everyone learn about it and save some people's lives.
Heck yeah. Thanks for having me on,
Yeah, man.
Bobby. It's a pleasure to be here talking with you about life extension and transhumanism, and let's get to it. This is going to be fun. And
Yeah, definitely.
hopefully you gain some new subscribers from this. We'll throw some people your way and
Yeah.
try to gain your audience bigger.
Yeah, man. There's not that many. We brought this up a little bit before we started recording, but there's really not that many life extensionists vlogging and discussing the research and whatnot. And so we're like one of the first people to really do it. Some people will make like compilation videos or whatever, but no one's actually discussing it, supporting it um, online yet. So yeah. Um, so I wanted to just discuss some basics at first and cover, what is life extension research, and and dive into some of the different technologies and science behind it. And so, yeah, to begin, what is life extension to you, and the research and whatnot?
All right. Well, life extension to me is basically where the scientists they're giving us hope that in the future they're going to cure aging once and for all, and that we can live indefinitely, and we have no time limit on our lifespan. Basically, that's the life extension. That's what life extension is.
Yeah,
I got into it from Aubrey de Grey. Aubrey de Grey is like he got me into it. The idea that aging is a disease and we can cure it and we can solve
yeah,
this problem with enough science, enough research. So it's
same here. That's
exciting.
that's how I learned about it, was Aubrey Gray. I saw his TEDx, and when I first saw him, I was like, who is this like old guy like talking about defeating aging?
Yeah.
But then after I got after like I did some undergraduate classes and was working on my bachelor's degree, I looked back into him. I was like, geez, this is like really impressive. Yeah.
Super impressive. And it's
Well,
like I
when did you hear
compare
about Aubrey Gray?
I started watching YouTube clips, must have been a TED talk he did. I know his 7 deadly causes of aging and just going through how each one can be cured. And if we can cure them all, if we can solve every problem, then why should there be a lifespan limit?
Yeah.
Um, that's what got me into it, just his lectures. And then I started the Eternal Life Fan Club on Facebook. That's where it really started. Even before I had the YouTube, I was making basically memes of Aubrey de Grey. I was trying to make it more fun. I was trying to memify him,
Yeah.
um, and do stuff like that and quote pages. And that's how the whole thing started, really, with Aubrey de Grey.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. It's it's really odd that it's I feel like the scientific community has really dropped the ball, and I would even go to say has failed society in not only not popularizing life extension research and just the idea of extending lifespan, specifically maximum lifespan, for decades and centuries and millennia, right? Not just getting us to live to, not just increasing average lifespan, but living to like 150 years old or 200 years old. And of course, if you get to 200, we're likely going to get to 1,000, because within that amount of time, right, we're going to figure out
Right.
ways to extend lifespan. And so,
The longevity escape velocity, as they call
yeah,
it.
nice. Yeah, man. And so it's really a shame, because calorie restriction has been known to extend mice lifespan since 1935, which is like almost 100 years ago. And since the 1950s, between 1950 and 2000, there's like a bunch of different supplements and drugs extending mice lifespan. And since the year 2000, there's like a bunch of different like gene therapies and stem cell therapies extending mice lifespan between even up to like 50%, which like, 50% increase for us would get us to like, whatever, 160 years old.
Right.
And so it's like, how can there be this many different treatments? There's probably like in mice alone, there's like probably 500 different emerging life extension treatments, studies that with life extension results. And then, if you add in like nematodes and yeast and flies and fish and dogs, there's like 4,000 or 5,000 studies, which is like, first off, like, why haven't we heard about this?
Right.
Through many talks.
It's strange. Like we hear so much about people in the scientific community wanting to go to space and NASA and explore the outer space, but it's like, what about exploring the inner space of our own bodies? Like we haven't even gotten our biology down to understand aging, and we're obsessed with going out into outer space. And I love the idea of going to outer space and colonizing Mars, and I think that's also something that can help our cause, because one of the biggest arguments against life extension is this idea of overpopulation, right? So as soon as we can convince people, hey, look, it's not a problem, we'll be colonizing space, there's infinite room, we can colonize space and have infinite room for infinite people.
There's a lot of resources out in space, and renewable technologies are advancing exponentially in many different aspects, and there's a lot of good reasons to think that overpopulation won't really even occur. There's a lot of good evidence that we could discuss in more detail. But even with like, research on aging is getting really popular lately, especially because of Aubrey de Grey. In the last decade, so many scientists have jumped on the bandwagon. You see a new TEDx, every like week now about age reversal treatments. But even that, like, you see scientists, what they'll really emphasize, or they always have like a caveat saying, extend health span. Lifespan, it's not really as much important. What we really want to extend is health span, which is like, sort of correct, but at the same time is like, absurd in so many ways.
Right, because when you extend health span, you automatically extend lifespan. It's like they're trying to separate the two. It's like, no, they're the same thing. When health span is lifespan, if you're healthy, there's no reason you should die, and you're going to live longer. Right?
I mean, I don't even see why in the first place why scientists would even say, like, we care more about health span. It's like why would you even say that in the first place? Well, why do you have some vendetta against extending maximum lifespan? I don't really get it. But maybe because we have increased our morbidity. The amount of time we're sick has actually increased. So that's what like critics like Dr. I think I emailed you or Facebook messaged you about Ezekiel Emanuel.
Yes.
Hopefully I can talk to him soon.
I think I made some quote pages about with him on my Eternal Life Blasphemy page. It was a page I made to expose all the deathists,
Okay. Man, I gotta check that out.
Yeah.
And so he actually has really good evidence for an extension of morbidity occurring, even though we've been extending our average lifespan for the last like century. Specifically in the last like 20 years, there's been like a really big increase in people being sick longer. And so, but for some reason his conclusion is just give up instead of overcome these issues, and then he provides a bunch of like really lame arguments for why we should just give up at 75 years old.
Wow.
Which is horrible. And he's prominent bioethicist, right? Like, it doesn't really make sense. Oncologist, but whatever. So health span is important, but these life extension treatments, if you get somebody to live to 150 years old with these treatments, just 150, right? Like, which should be pretty easy. You wouldn't have to worry about an extension of morbidity. It'd be really difficult to get someone to live to 150 years old, but still be really sick, like bedridden or like, decaying for, 3 more decades. That just,
Right.
that's just unrealistic. And that's not what the literature has indicated in any way.
Right. So,
So
I'm curious, what got you on the path of researching life extension? Like, did you have a fear of death like me, like where it started, where
yeah.
you're just like afraid of death and wanting to live forever? Like, how did it start for you?
Um, yeah, man, that's a great start that you had. So you actually were considering your mortality, and you were like, geez, I really want to overcome this.
Oh yeah, like when I was a child, I would basically have a horrible time even just going to sleep because I'd be afraid I'd die in my sleep. That's how it
Jeez.
started for me. Literally, I was just like, I started to be afraid that, like, because when you're sleeping, you go to sleep, it's like, do you know for sure you're gonna wake up? And just that thought that I could actually die in my sleep and never wake up, it actually made it so it was hard for me to even sleep sometimes.
Jeez. Oh, did you
And
ever grow up in like a religious household?
yes, I grew
Okay.
up Christian, so I guess
Same here.
that's partly to blame, I guess you could say, for my fixation on eternal life, because as you know, eternal life is like the central theme of Christianity. So,
Yeah.
but it's in the form of the afterlife, and I always kind of, even as a Christian growing up in Sunday school, like I didn't know for sure there was an afterlife. So I was always kind of an agnostic Christian, even when I was, raised in this Christian. I still didn't know for sure
Yeah.
that when they talked about in Sunday school, hey, look, you're gonna go to heaven when you die. I was like, well, how do I know for sure? How do I
Yeah.
know that there is a heaven? And that's where the fear of death really started to sink into my brain. Like, how do I know any of this is true? Like, I want it to be true. I want there to be this heaven and everything, but I was like, well, I don't know that it's true, you
Yeah.
know? And when everyone raised their hand in Sunday school, like, hey, you're going to go to heaven, you're saved, I was just like, how the heck do I know I'm saved? And how do I know
Yeah.
I'm going to live forever? It's like, but the fixation of living forever and the desire to live forever started with Christianity. How did it start for you? Like,
Yeah. So I never thought about it. I never thought about being able to overcome death. I was also raised Christian. But what actually made me an atheist was remember the um, some religious, one of the religious people that were at the church that was like leading the Sunday sermon or whatever. They told me that we're supposed to love God more than our parents. I just remember thinking like, dude, I've never even met this guy. Like, and so that's actually what made me atheist. But watching like prominent intellectuals online discuss about atheism, I think that in science really gave me a passion for atheism and agnosticism. And but I still never really thought about overcoming death. And I even, I was my entire college career, I have my bachelor's degree in biomedical science, and I never heard about life extension research. I never heard about aging, um, and it just seemed really obvious that it'd be too difficult of a problem to overcome, right? Like these diseases are just way too complex. Just think of neurological diseases alone. Like there's so many, and the brain is so unfathomably complex. It's like it just seems impossible. It's like why even think about it? And so it wasn't until like I heard about Aubrey Gray, and then even then I was like, okay, that sounds ridiculous. Like I don't want to waste my time. And so, but I started writing a philosophy paper on titled "Science-Based Species" during my second to last semester at Sac State, and I was getting really passionate about like different types of truths, like how do you determine truth, what are all
mm-hmm.
different methods, and people have there's like a whole list of methods, but I was trying to argue that science was the best and only way that we know of to determine truth, and so I was trying to argue that in this paper. And while researching, I learned about Aubrey, then I learned about Ray Kurzweil and Martine Rothblatt, and I was just like, wow, like this is so impressive. Because I knew like I read that there's only like about 9 million scientists around there in the world, I was like, geez, like that's such a small demographic. Like imagine if we're a science-based species. Imagine if like a bunch of people were scientists and people were scientifically adept. We defeat death easily, like overnight. And so then I learned about Ray Kurzweil and whatnot, and I was like, whoa, this is like really impressive. Um, especially Ray Kurzweil, he has some great evidence and reasoning behind why we're going to defeat death in the near future.
Right.
And so, and then I started learning more about various supplements and drugs and gene therapies and stem cell therapies that were extending modeled organisms' lifespans. And so now I wanted to become a neurologist. That's why I was getting my biomedical degree, but I was too passionate about research, and so now I'm gonna start working on getting my master's in stem cell research. But really, what I ultimately want to do is start translating these life extension treatments into humans. And like, there's so many, it's like it's about time that we start doing this.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for your contribution and your planning to help me live forever. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
We need more people like you for sure.
Yeah, there's really not enough scientists working on this research. And a lot of scientists are even against it. It's like, it just makes like no sense, man. They think it's like insincere to want to help people live longer, to 150 years old or 200 years old, or they just have no idea about it. And even though there's so much literature, it's like what is going on?
Right.
I don't get it.
They're just stuck in the status quo of tradition and all the limitations people put on lifespan in the past. They're just stuck in that mindset. They can't see the potential, the real potential to cure aging, like Aubrey de Grey says. Like they're stuck in an old paradigm. You need to shift out of that.
Yeah. Aubrey has talked a lot about what does he call it?
The pro-aging trance.
Yeah, nice.
Right.
Yeah, I really have noticed that in people, man, like lay people and scientists. Even scientists that work on aging, man, like it's difficult sometimes to convince them. It's like to extend maximum lifespan is important also.
Right.
So it still seems to be a little bit of an uphill battle. I think lay people like us are really the ones that are gonna push this movement forward and show all the scientists like, look, like this is what we really care about, and this is what's optimal for society is to extend lifespan to 150, 200 years old, 1,000 years old, and millions and billions of years.
It's becoming more mainstream, and I think as more celebrities eventually start promoting it, it's just going to become more and more mainstream.
Yeah.
It's going to be like the norm eventually, just like transhumanism. Everyone, I think, in this, eventually everyone's going to be transhumanist. They're not going to necessarily call themselves transhumanists, but it's just going to be life. Like everyone's just going to be pro technology because it's obvious that the technology is helping us so much and extending our lifespan and curing diseases, and people won't have to label themselves. Oh, I'm a transhumanist. It'll just be like, of course you're a transhumanist. Like who isn't? Like everyone wants to, It's like, but the tough thing is going to be getting religious people on board. That's been my focus lately, is how are we going to convince religious people who are firmly rooted in this idea of the afterlife and living forever in some sort of spiritual sense. How do we convince those people that actually they need to be trying to live forever physically, and even helping us cure aging, and this sort of thing is what I've been focusing on. So what are your ideas as far as that?
I have a lot of ideas. I try not to share my ideas about that specifically, about religion and life extension, because I want to prolong like people not talking about it as much as possible for as long as possible, so that people have less time to who are deathists, who support death, have less time to think about like the arguments and stuff. I might even edit that part out.
Oh, that's an interesting concept. So like you just want them to wake up in a world where it's like everyone, like it's the norm and it's already happening, so they're not having to come up with arguments against it.
Yeah,
right?
I want it to be more. Yeah, hopefully social norms can influence them to not accept death over extending lifespan. And but yeah, I have quite a few arguments, and even like, but I've been researching life extension, whether it's compatible with Christianity specifically, and I sat down with I want to say Pope, I sat down with a pastor recently, and we actually went through the Bible together and tried to look for whether it supports life extension or not. And we sat down for like 4 hours, man, and we concluded that the Bible actually supports life extension, and you can actually find really good arguments in which Christianity supports life extension.
Absolutely. One of
But
my
you had
most one of my most recent presentations I did on YouTube was why I think Jesus would want us to embrace transhumanism. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, transhumanism and yeah, living longer. I don't think Jesus would tell people to commit suicide or stop taking medical treatments if he was alive today. Well, I mean, if he's in physical form, let's say.
right?
Uh, and but I saw that you talked with a pastor a while ago, right? And you got a pretty solid amount of views on that. Um, I watched like half of it. I wanted to watch the whole thing before we talked. Did you talk about life extension with him?
Yeah.
Because
Pastor
I saw that you
Stephen
talked a lot
Anderson.
about like just like arguments, like moral arguments and stuff. But I'm not sure if
Right.
you talked much about life extension.
Right. At that point, when I interviewed him, I was basically an atheist coming with arguments to him, like why. I was also like trying to argue against his system of salvation because he was saying um, that God saves people based upon what they believe, and
Yeah,
it's always been a philosophy of mine that people don't choose what they believe. So something I was telling him is like if people don't choose what they believe, and you're telling us that God saves people based upon their beliefs, I was telling him like, isn't that quite unfair that you have this
yeah,
God who's, you know, damning people to hell, and he was telling me that I was gonna go to hell because I'm an atheist, but I'm sitting here like telling him like I didn't choose to be an atheist. I'm just forced to be an atheist. But
yeah.
and
Based
so
on
I
the
was I was
evidence
I was
around
kind
you.
of exactly. So I was trying to reveal to him that his system of salvation and his interpretation of God and everything is quite unfair. I wanted
Yeah,
him to acknowledge that. Um,
yeah. It would require it would require someone to deny reality really. Um, but yeah, it's a touchy subject. I'm especially passionate about it because I have really religious family members, and I care about them really deeply, and I don't want to see them commit suicide and stop taking medical treatments,
right.
at some arbitrary age, let's say like 120, because the Bible says after the flood, people will start living only to 120. Um, but they don't. The Bible doesn't necessarily say that God caps it at 120. For example, Joseph lived to 130 after that, and we have people on record that are a person on record that lived past 120. So obviously God's okay with it. Um, so I especially I try really hard to make sure that when the time comes, I'll be able to help my family members not die. Um,
Exactly.
and so that's like there's two things that I usually tell religious people or that I bring up when I discuss religion with life extension is first off, what's awesome about transhumanism, life extension, and stuff. It's not really like atheism. I've noticed they became really popular, especially in the last decade, because they're kind of like schooling theists, right? Like it's
Mm,
pretty easy to find a theist that can say something absurd, right? And
right.
so and have a scientist just hammer them, right? Like Lawrence Krauss or Richard Dawkins,
Right.
and that's fun to watch, but now it's not necessarily about like getting views and making them feel foolish. Now it's about trying to help them, trying to convince them like don't choose death, choose
Exactly.
life extension,
Yeah.
and so it's
And
just
and
so
that
morally
was
superior.
and that's why like in the comments of my interview with Pastor Anderson, people really liked that I was coming at it from a very friendly perspective. I wasn't very antagonistic, and I was very
Yeah.
polite and everything. And that was
Yeah, that's
kind of
great.
rare for people to see, like such a polite conversation between an atheist and a pastor, you know.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think
man.
that was good.
And something if I ever come in contact with somebody who supports death or a religious person who's really hooked on accepting death instead of extending lifespan, what I always tell them at the end is like, look, man, look, just live for a couple thousand years, and take the time to think about it. Like this is a big issue, and it's a big step to take, and so might as well, take the time to really study the issue. Just wait like 5,000 years, and then make the decision,
Right,
and then make the decision.
right.
And so that tends to like make them feel less confident about choosing death.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things I was doing with Pastor Anderson. I was trying to instill fear of death into him. Basically,
Okay.
shouldn't you stay around here forever and live forever, and we
Yeah.
can make this heaven on earth? And these kind of arguments. Um, Ultimately, I think he was fine with wanting to extend life. He wasn't against that. But I think where the religious
That's good.
people they cannot get on board with transhumanism is the idea of taking chips and technology into your brain and this
Yeah.
type of where transhumanism says that we should become cyborgs. This is what the religious people cannot accept,
Yeah.
really. But I think they're
Um,
going to be fine with curing aging. I think that's
okay.
for the most part.
Yeah, I think yeah. And yeah, it's tough to know if we're gonna have to really directly integrate ourselves with technology or not to truly extend lifespan. I know that we'll be able to extend our human body's lifespan just through medical interventions, like editing our genome and restoring whatever we lose as we age, and then removing any damage. We can keep the human body alive for thousands of years and millions and billions, but something that I like have been thinking about quite a bit lately, and not much research has been done on it. I've noticed is we recycle our atoms, like every 7 or 10 years or whatever, based on the organ. I mean, some organs, right? Like we turn over all of our blood cells like at a remarkable pace, like something like every 7 seconds or something ridiculous. But we recycle atoms. Eventually, it's like a DCS ship or whatever, right? Where you replace all the parts and
Right.
with the same parts, and it's like once you replace it all, it's like that's not the same ship. It looks like the same ship, and it looks like the same car, but it's not the same car, even though you replaced all those parts.
Exactly. I've always been fascinated by the question of whether or not we would maintain our own consciousness if we were to become robots and become cyborgs like these transhumanists talk about.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it
you know,
might be
I can
something we have to do.
I consider myself a transhumanist, but I'm also skeptical of a lot of the almost I feel like a lot of them are overconfident that we'd be able to like mind upload, for instance. And is that a valid way to live forever? Or would you lose yourself in that, becoming some consciousness in the cloud? Would you actually
Yeah.
lose your identity in that sense? And I'm one of those people that's like, okay, I'm really worried that
Yeah.
that's a valid way to live forever.
Yeah,
So
man.
I'm more into the idea of like I want to keep my biology like
Yeah.
as long as possible because like in the same way that I want to live forever physically because this is the only life I know exists, in the same sense, in the same way of thinking, it's like this is the only consciousness that I know for sure that I have. And I don't know that I can have this consciousness in a cloud in some virtual format. So I'm really kind of attached to the biology where maybe a lot of other transhumanists are more open to the idea of just like, okay, I'll just replace my brain with a robotic brain. And like I'm like, is that really gonna be you?
Yeah.
Like what's your opinions on that? Do you think it gets into the question of like like in Star Trek when they beam someone up and is that person when you get beamed up is are you still the same person
Yeah.
or
I
like when
mean,
they teleport you or do you lose your consciousness or is it just a copy of you when
Yeah,
they
it's just like a
replicate you.
twin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a serious issue that I think we'll contend with for a while. Hopefully, the technology will be fairly easy to study to where we can like comprehend whether that's the case or not. But that actually might be happening to us right now. The Star Trek, beaming thing. What might be happening is we might be dying every like 10 years because we're recycling our atoms in our body,
Right.
and so we might just every like 7 or 10 years, maybe like 3 or 5, we might be technically making a twin of ourselves just by the natural processes of our body, um, and so we might be technically dying,
Right.
and so it might be we might have no choice but to transfer our consciousness to a computer in order to get around that issue.
Right.
Um, but I definitely want to wait a couple centuries studying direct neural interface technology or BCI technology before I make that step,
Right.
because of the issues you brought up.
Yeah. It could be that in the future there's all these people walking around with their robotic brains, and simulation. There's a simulation of a person, and they're not actually real people anymore. They're just these simulations that go around acting like they're real people.
Yeah,
Or let's say cryonics, the people who get resurrected from cryonics. What if they get resurrected or whatever, and their minds, it's not them anymore. It's like they get replaced with this simulation of their memories or whatever, but it's not actually them, and they're pretending like they're the old person, but it's not even them. We wouldn't even know, right?
yeah, yeah. It's pretty scary to think about, but a lot of money's a good thing that a lot of money is being invested into this type of technology. Company Kernel with I think Brian Johnson. He's put like $100 million so far into the technology, or maybe more. And then of course Elon Musk's Neuralink. Not only has he raised like millions of dollars to advance the brain-computer interface technology, but he's made incredible strides because Elon Musk is maybe the most genius person that's ever existed. Like, the guy's so
Except for
impressive.
that he said he doesn't even want to live forever. Except for
Yeah,
that.
I was trying to
Pretty
find that
smart.
clip. I heard him say that, and yeah, that was a shame. That was too bad.
No.
Um, can you send that clip to me? Because I was trying to find that.
Oh yeah, I'll send it.
Couldn't find it.
I must have put it in my videos like 5 or 6 different times. I'm like, why
Yeah,
is he?
man.
I want like a direct response from him. Like, why did you say this? Why don't you want to
Yeah,
live forever? I want to talk to him about eternal life. That'd be so fun.
yeah, that'd be sweet. I'm sure he'll change his mind because he said he
I
wants
think
to.
so.
He lived to a good 100 years old, I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, in that amount of time,
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
he'll be in
Oh yeah.
such an incredible position, and I'm sure he'll be like, look, I don't want freaking Alzheimer's. Like, I don't want my heart to stop. Uh,
Exactly.
so, so yeah, that's a little too bad, but and so yeah, a pretty good amount of money is being invested in that type of technology. I'm sure the government is investing quite a bit. I've heard some things here and there. I even heard like there's some like symposium that about like aliens or something. It's like conspiracy like people. And they had some like official like a scientist who worked in the government, and I guess he's coming out and he's talking about how they were working on brain computer interface technology, and they're capable of I mean, this is just what he says. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but he said that they were capable of transmitting a voice into people's brains from distance. And so they used it on the battlefield, he said, and they put it into, there's someone like Afghanistan or something. I got to watch it again. I can send you a link. I'll probably post it, like a picture of the video on here. But he said that they put the words, "This is Allah, put down your guns," or something like that. And
Wow.
so they all put their guns down.
Wow. See, that's why like you got to question people who have religious experiences. Are these experiences really spiritual? Because they could just be advanced technology. They could be
Yeah.
the government sending a signal into your brain and you're thinking you're talking to God, and you're thinking God's talking to you, and you're thinking an angel is talking to you, but it's really just the government or someone with advanced technology doing an experiment on you. It's like
Yeah, it's
people really need to be skeptical.
I think it's the most dangerous technology that will ever exist, at least that I comprehend, because it's one thing to send auditory, hallucinations or whatever, um, into someone's brain from a distance, but it's another thing to imagine them activating, your sensory areas in your brain, right? Activating your pain, senses and whatnot. Maybe increasing them even. I mean, you don't even have to increase them really, but imagine somebody from a distance. They can activate, the part in your brain. It's like in your amygdala or whatever inside your primary sensory cortex, where and they increase your pain. I mean, that would be the worst thing that you can imagine, right?
Right. Like I can see them using this kind of technology to create virtual hells. Like that's an
Yeah.
idea that's talked about in transhumanism. Some are for it, some are against. I'm one of those people that's for it because I think it'd be good to keep people in line. Gotta create a healthy fear of criminal activity, and maybe a virtual hell would be a good incentive for people not to do not to murder and not to do all
Yeah.
these evil things, because they'd be too afraid because they don't want to end up in a virtual hell. So I can see
Yeah.
advantages to it.
Yeah, I think Black Mirror's done a few episodes on it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the level that you take it to. Like, if you're increasing somebody's, pain receptors or their sensation of pain, imagine like, increasing like the feeling of a toothache or your arm getting chopped off, whatever. But like, super, increased. I think that'd be the most evil thing,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's going to be here in the near future, if not already here.
Right.
I mean, who the heck knows what they have, in the government.
And just
And
just imagine, like, we already know that like certain drugs can increase your sense of fear, your paranoia, like THC, right? Imagine if they did that to someone and amplified that effect, amplified that THC paranoia effect that people get when they smoke pot. That could be part of the virtual hell to make people like, you know, to amplify all their worst fears in their head and just drive them into some kind of
yeah,
mad psychosis.
and I'm surprised CBD actually doesn't have any life extension properties. Because it has. Whenever you see like a drug or a gene therapy or supplement have multiple health benefits, like different, like totally different parts of your body, they tend to have life extension effects. So I'm really surprised that I at least haven't read any literature on it. I mean, it might at certain doses.
So
Um,
CBD, as far as you're aware, does not have life extension properties.
yeah, as far as I'm aware, but I mean, I don't think there's enough studies out there
Mm-hmm.
to feel confident in
Yeah,
that.
exactly. I
Someone,
don't. I don't think the jury is completely out on
yeah,
that. I've
yeah,
I've
I wouldn't be
been
surprised if it
taking
does.
I've been taking CBD as part of my own regime for life
Cool,
extension. I'm
nice,
I'm hoping that it's going to prevent Alzheimer's because it's supposed to be
okay,
extremely anti-inflammatory for the
yeah,
brain, and even creates neurogenesis. So
yeah,
my own supplement regime and protocol has a lot to do with like anti-Alzheimer's, promoting brain plasticity, promoting the growth of new neurons.
cool,
People used to think we can't grow new brain cells, right? But now we know we can. We can
yeah,
grow new brain cells with like CBD, lion's mane, things like that.
okay, yeah. I think without any sort of like interventions, the last research I read, we uh, we actually grow like 300 new neurons a day, like through
Wow.
neurogenesis, which was nobody thought that was true until like a few years back. I think like 3 years ago that research came out. Um, I'm not sure. I haven't checked out if that's numbers increased at all, but everyone thought before that it was just neuroplasticity that occurred, um,
Right.
which I mean even neuroplasticity is sort of new, a new idea. um, One of my neuroscience professors, she actually worked on research that neuroplasticity, and she was like, yeah, we used to think that it was dogma that your cells were what you had when you were born,
Right.
and so, but they found out that wasn't true. But what other promising and emerging life extension treatments are you taking? If
Well,
you
of
don't mind me
course,
asking.
I've jumped on the NAD
Okay.
NMN bandwagon that all the life extensionists are into. Certainly onto that. I'm taking two different forms of NAD. I'm taking an NADH, which is a different form that's supposed to increase your NAD levels. I'm taking NMN, which is also supposed to increase your NAD levels.
Okay.
Um, and I tried at first. I tried because I wanted to get the benefits of the, you know, how people do NAD therapy intravenously because
Yeah,
it's
man.
supposed to be more powerful to get it to increase your levels. So
Yeah,
I
it's
wanted to,
really good to for elderly people to IV it because the supplements aren't enough to really raise their
yes,
NAD plus levels. And so yeah, IVing it is like really good. Supposedly, I guess a lot of like detox centers do it for like alcoholism and
yes,
like meth.
and I watched videos on YouTube of people who had their lives changed by doing the NAD
Yeah,
intravenous therapy. So I wanted to get that effect, but these NAD clinics are outrageously expensive. It's just not
yeah,
practical for me to
no
go to an NA.
insurance.
No, it's crazy expensive. So until that is cheaper, I looked into different ways of getting it into my bloodstream better than just orally. So
Okay,
I took the patches for a while. There's NAD patches that are supposed to increase your NAD levels, but I wasn't sure that that was actually. I didn't feel like that was actually being very effective. And then I looked into, and then for a while I did it rectally because that's actually supposed to be a good way to get it, like literally
jeez.
like an NAD suppository. So I was doing that for a while.
Okay,
Um, but then I dropped that off, and now I'm just doing the supplements. I'm just taking the pills, two different
nice.
forms.
Yeah,
Are you taking NAD in any forms?
yeah. Lithium Health, nicotinamide
Okay,
riboside.
right. That's what I'm.
Um, I think NMN is like one step closer to NAD plus in like the metabolic pathway. But yeah, I'm really surprised that the mice haven't had their life span extended more by supplementing by increasing NAD plus.
Right.
It's really surprising because of NAD plus is such an important molecule for really all organisms, and and it decreases so dramatically as we
Yes.
age. At least in like, um, I mean, yeah, it does. And so it's really surprising that there aren't more impressive results. But maybe it's because they're not doing the correct dosage, or maybe I don't know. Hopefully, David Sinclair
Yeah.
you provides some better evidence or discovers something um, that helps us extend our lifespan. But I mean, so far he hasn't really produced anything too impressive. Like he's tried manipulating sirtuins, um, and even that hasn't had that impressive life extension results in mice or yeast or nematodes. Uh,
Right.
so it's a shame that that's all he really talks about. He'll talk about metformin sometimes and rapamycin, but there's so many other treatments out there that so
Yes.
much more impressive.
Yeah. He's just simply like single-mindedly focused on that.
Yeah,
And I'm into a lot of different things. I've been doing berberine. Berberine,
sweet.
that is supposed to mimic metformin, which I saw you did an interview on an expert talking about metformin. So berberine is a natural herbal extract, and it's supposed to have very similar effects of that metformin would have.
Okay.
And so without the negative side effects of metformin, metformin can have potentially pretty nasty side effects in the long term. So I'm a little scared of doing metformin, but I do berberine to replace that. I'm very excited about activated charcoal. That's something to look into. Activated charcoal supposedly can extend the life of mice by like up to 40%. So
Yeah.
that's pretty powerful. So I've been doing activated charcoal a lot. It's one of my biggest ones that I've been doing.
Yeah. That the I think is fullerene like C60. The paper actually tried claiming that it was a 60% increase. Or no, I think they tried claiming like 80% increase or something in lifespan of mice. But um, but I think the last paper that used activated charcoal in mice extended their lifespan pretty impressively. Still is like over 20% or something like that. I'll have to look at the paper again. I actually have it right here. I can check. Hopefully I can find it. But yeah, the first study, even Aubrey Gray talked about it one time, and everyone just kind of like concluded that they messed up somehow, and they provided bad data. And there's some reasoning like something was wrong with the pictures.
Really?
Oh, there it is. Yeah, so they said 40%. I think they said up to like freaking like 80%. So when everyone heard that, they're like, of course, 80%. Like, what the heck? Like, why is this molecule doing this?
Right.
And so they looked at the paper, and the paper, everyone just kind of was like, okay, that paper is a joke. And so no one really took it seriously. I think like a couple years ago, they replicated a similar study, and it still extended mice lifespan by quite a bit. Pretty sure over 20%. It might even be more than that. Might be in the 30s, which is like really really great. And there's a lot of great ways to take activated charcoal. How do you take it?
I'm not even taking the C60. I think that's kind of a scam. I've also heard there's some potential danger with the C60 because it's basically concentrating out one type of fullerene, and they could potentially cause DNA damage from what I've heard. Potentially, there's a potential risk for that, but I think it's more natural. It's much cheaper just to take bulk amount, like high amounts of the normal activated charcoal from like a coconut charcoal or a wood charcoal.
Okay.
So that's what I've been doing, and I've been doing like tablespoon amounts, like up to like generally average like 3 tablespoons a day of that, and that's a lot.
When did you start doing that?
And I don't do it every day. Sometimes I take breaks, but I started doing that several months ago. And
do you ever experience any like side effects?
Sometimes a little bit of feeling of stomach upset if I sometimes, but not too bad. I also take it with a bunch of cayenne pepper because I have a theory that if you take it with a lot of cayenne pepper, which stimulates the blood flow to your stomach, you can detoxify more garbage out of your bloodstream. So I want to like take the activated charcoal with something that stimulates the blood flow to the stomach, so kind of pull toxins out of the bloodstream. So I'm taking it as a detoxification method. So activated charcoal with like tablespoons of cayenne pepper. I'm a big believer in those hot peppers for longevity.
Yeah, and by the way, to let everyone know, as a disclaimer, we're not doctors, and to make sure you get advice from a doctor before taking some of these life extension treatments. Some of them are like supplements, so we could tell you like to take some sort of supplement. That's not so bad, but still, I mean, you should, even with that, you should get advice from a doctor before taking it, in case maybe you'll have some reaction that's negative. But yeah, definitely make sure you talk to your doctor.
Another potential downside I've kind of noticed with the activated charcoal is it can kind of cause a bit of constipation. So what I do to counteract that is I do super high amounts of magnesium oil, rubbing it all over my body, and the magnesium oil is a way to absorb magnesium transdermally through your skin, and it's actually, you get way more absorption of magnesium doing it that way, and it solves the constipation issue if you just saturate your skin with magnesium oil. Jeez. It's magnesium oil is a magnesium chloride salt that you just rub it on your skin, and it super saturates your bloodstream with magnesium.
Just lather yourself up.
Yeah, you just literally, I lather myself up with this stuff, and it's a better way of getting magnesium into your body, because if you take magnesium orally, it doesn't absorb very well, and it can actually just cause diarrhea and loose stools and everything. But if you take it on the skin, your body will kind of just absorb just what it needs, and you're constantly if you just leave it on your skin, you don't even wash it out, you're kind of micro dosing magnesium all day, and your body just sucks exactly what it needs into your body. I find it one of the best things. It's probably one of my most important strategies for longevity, because magnesium is a lot of people are most people are severely deficient in magnesium. And magnesium is important for the mitochondrial health. It's important for decalcifying the body. One of the biggest problems with aging is you get calcium deposits in your arteries. You get a high coronary calcium score in your arteries, which can be a sign that you're on your way to like heart disease and a heart attack.
Yeah.
So if you supersaturate your blood with magnesium, it will decalcify your arteries, and it will prevent heart disease, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta look into that. Yeah, I haven't checked out magnesium very much, but yeah, I talked to Dr. Ford Brewer recently. He's a pretty popular doctor on YouTube, and he actually had a really high, um, not I forgot what the instrument was that they used, but he had a really high calcium score, in his, I think, either in both of his carotids or just one of them. I forget, but it was like really high. And he's a doctor that focuses on cardiovascular disease. So he was like, what the heck? Like, I've been taking all the preventative approaches. Well, he checked his genetics, and he saw that he has a lot of predispositions. And so he started taking, like nicotinamide, riboside, and a few other things. I think he even started in statins, which statins have actually even extended my lifespan, but not by very much. I think it's like less than 10%. And so he reduced it by a lot, and he discussed about it on YouTube. So everyone should check that out. He's a great doctor.
Excellent.
Yeah, man.
What what supplements are you taking other than NMN?
Well, actually, I take NR, leucine.
NR. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have it right here.
Oh, okay.
And we're not sponsored by them, but maybe we can give them a call, get sponsored. That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then I take there's a recently, I think last year or maybe this year, I can put the study on the page, but an AI checked for mimetics of rapamycin and metformin. It went through literature and this database and try to find mimetics, and one of them to rapamycin was EGCG. And so I recently started taking that. It's extended, I think, nematodes lifespan. I don't think it's extended mice lifespan. Like, no one's demonstrated it in mice yet. And so rapamycin is pretty powerful. They've almost gotten up to like 20%, I think, in an increase in like average lifespan. I'm not sure maximum. And then I just started taking vitamin D. Everyone has a deficiency in vitamin D, so
I take vitamin D too.
Yeah, and it's actually extended, I think, nematodes lifespan. I don't think they've tried it in mice yet. And and so that's all I'm taking right now so far. And maybe when I'm like 35 years old, or right now I'm 28, but when I'm like 35 or 40 years old, I'll start IVing mesenchymal stem cells, maybe once a year or something, or maybe even more, depending on how much money I have at that point in time.
Are you getting some of your stem cells frozen right now while you're younger? Is that what you're doing? They say that's like the strategy, right? You freeze them while you're young so that you can like clone those stem cells, and you're cloning younger stem cells as opposed to doing it when you're older. It's better to do it when you're younger and get them saved in a bank or something, right?
Definitely. Yeah, that's a really popular thing that a lot of people are doing, because not only they're your specific stem cells too. If you use someone else's stem cells, there's a possibility of the what's it called, like host to graft syndrome, whatever. There can be an issue with your immune system fighting the stem cells that you inject in you. But I mean, there's a lot of places where you can get the stem cells if you're a medical tourist. There's BioAccelerator, or in Colombia, or the Stem Cell Institute in Panama, which that one I would recommend personally. That's where like all like the rich people go, and you don't really have to be that rich. I mean, it's like,
is that where Peter Nygaard? Is that where he does his?
Yeah, man. Peter Agar goes there. I see Mel Gibson goes there. Dan Bilzerian goes there. I think even Joe Rogan might go there. I'm not sure about Joe, but I know he gets stem cells IV'd in him. Um, but uh, and so that's gonna be really great to start getting. But I'm gonna wait a while because our stem cells decrease over time, and that's why it's good to bank them, especially at a
Hmm.
young age, because when you're young, they're more vital, they function better. It's been known that for a while now that older stem cells don't really help you that much, can actually decrease your life expectancy, injecting old stem cells in you
Oh
versus
wow.
useful ones. And so, yeah, it's really important to bank those. If you have children and you're watching this, make sure you bank their stem cells, uh, hematopoietic or mesenchymal. And that alone, man, has a possibility of helping you live to 150 years old, and making you really youthful. Right, like Mel Gibson's really he became really well known for his dad and him doing stem cells at the Stem Cell Institute in Panama. His dad was gonna he's on his deathbed essentially at like 91, I think, and now Mel Gibson's dad is 98 years old. He can dance. He can.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a powerful treatment, man. And but there's not very many FDA approved stem cells in the U.S. yet. You can get it for um, you know, various osteopathologies, for like
Right.
arthritis and stuff, and in your knees, but nothing. It has this. It can treat so many different things, like strokes and dementia, etc. But we're just kind of
Right.
moving really slowly in that direction, let alone life extension. I mean, frick, I don't know when they're gonna have it for that. Hopefully soon.
I hope the stem cell therapy treatments become cheaper,
Yeah,
and NAD injection. Like that. I want to do that. If I could do that cheap right now, I'd get NAD injections all the time.
yeah. IVing NAD is great, and there should be some stem cell treatments out soon, especially in the late 2020s, because an FDA commissioner, I think Scott Gottlieb, uh, he recently said that um, they predict there's going to be 10 to 20 cell and gene therapies being FDA approved every year, starting in 2025, um, which is going to be great, man. That's going to be so awesome. Um, and so hopefully we'll see stem cells FDA approved among those gene cell therapies. Um, and that's just going to be like a fantastic frontier that's going to help us live a lot longer.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, man. And so, but that's kind of like my 10-year kind of goal. It's kind of difficult to know what's going to be a decade
Right.
from now on the market, um, and we might not even really see anything being FDA approved for aging 10 years from now. We probably will. It's difficult to say. The only really the biggest step that I see being taken is the TAME trial with metformin. It's phase 3 clinical trial using metformin to target specifically um, age-related diseases,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, everyone should definitely go support that. I think they still need some more money. It begins next year, and it's a shame that they're using metformin because metformin is not that strong of a life extension treatment. Um, and, I was hoping they'd use something else, but Dr. Nir Barzilai, who's the primary investigator of that trial, he said he's like, metformin's pretty safe. We've been using it for a long time, and I didn't want to risk anyone dying since this is like one of
Right.
the first robust trials on aging. And so hopefully we'll start seeing but while that's ongoing, it's going to take like 6 or 7 years to finish that.
Right.
They're using metformin they're giving it to healthy individuals between the age of like 65 and 75 or something. and for like 7 years to see if it decreases in not only mortality but various age-related diseases. And so hopefully we won't have to wait 6 or 7 years to see more trials like that, you know?
Right. That'd be good to see. Um, Another thing I'm really excited about lately is trehalose. Have you heard about this? Trehalose? I talk about it all the time on my channel. I'm obsessed with it.
How do you spell it?
TRE HALOSE, trehalose.
Yeah, I haven't heard it.
It's a sugar, and I'm really surprised more people aren't talking about this because it's a very special sugar they're using now to clear the plaques out of the children with out of the brains of children with not Alzheimer's, autism. Autistic children often have these plaques that are very similar to the plaques that uh, um, Alzheimer's patients have, and they're using
Okay.
this sugar to clear those plaques out. So, and they're using this. It's a potential treatment for Alzheimer's. It's also it's supposed to be very good for preventing the cross-linking of proteins, and you know how like the advanced glycogen end products can age your skin and age your whole body. This is
Yeah.
supposed to be a preventative. So I'm really into trehalose. I take it all the time. It's actually even supposed to prevent a fatty liver. It has all these healing medicinal properties. It's like a medicinal sugar.
Yeah.
Um,
I just did a quick Google search and it's extended nematodes lifespan by quite a bit even.
wow. See,
Uh,
I'm
Geez, it's
a
been around for a while too.
yeah, I'm a big
Uh,
fan of it. I take it all the time.
yeah, I mean, if it's just a sugar too, it's like that's the cool thing about a lot of these treatments. I mean, right now, life extension treatments are very experimental, right? Like the FDA doesn't have aging as an indicator for to target with specific treatments yet, but and that'll change really soon. But so it's all really experimental and
Right.
requires you to do some research, especially if you're taking like a drug or a gene therapy. Man, that's like some scary stuff. I know some people who are doing gene therapies, uh,
Liz
and
Parrish, the queen of
yeah,
gene therapy.
yeah.
She's pretty
Um,
awesome.
yeah, a lot of people thought she'd get cancer, but it's kind of, I mean, the literature doesn't necessarily show that extending telomeres will cause cancer. But I'll say something about that. That's really interesting. But so the thing is, so you have to do quite a bit of research before, especially if it's like a drug, a pharmaceutical. You want to make sure you talk to a doctor and be careful of any side effects and get on a regimen and stuff. But you can look up different clinical trials, human clinical trials that have been that and check what the side effects are, if there even were any. Most of the time there aren't any because I mean it's a life extension treatment. Like, it's difficult to get sick when you're getting your extending a lifespan, but so it's important you can check like the doses and stuff. That's one way to know what to take experimentally. But then a lot of them are supplements, like we've talked about, and so or like a sugar, man, like trehalose. I don't really know too much about it. I gotta still read about it, but I mean, it seems fairly safe, right? And it's like might as well enter it inside your diet if it's something that simple, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's amazing because it used to be super expensive, but now they can manufacture it in China for like super cheap. But it used to
Okay.
be this thing where you could only get it in small amounts, and now it's like you can just get it, tons of it. It's cheap.
How much do you take?
I take 4 or 5 tablespoons a day.
Just chugging it.
Um, yeah, I think it's one of my most exciting anti-aging therapies I'm doing.
Sweet, man. That's awesome. Um, yeah, I'm not taking too much, but I might start taking some more stuff. Maybe like quercetin, and might even take resveratrol soon. It doesn't look like too helpful, but I mean, might as well take it. Like, uh, and because it's safe.
Yeah.
Um, and what other ones could you take? Are you taking anything else?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm taking so much stuff that I couldn't even name it all.
Royal
Um.
jelly is another one that's really impressive in mice,
Oh, okay.
extending their lifespan up to where is it at? up to like almost 30%.
Wow.
And royal jelly, it's like, man, you can buy that anywhere. Like, just put it
Okay,
on your peanut butter jelly
that's
sandwiches.
that's something I'm not taking. So I'm taking all the other bee products though. So I need to start taking royal jelly. I've been taking bee pollen. I've been taking the bee propolis, which actually has a form of a different molecule related to resveratrol. Starts with a P, psilocybin or something. It's a different.
It's like pterostilbene.
Yes, that's. I
Okay.
can never say that word. You know it.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what's in Elysium basis.
oh,
I'm not sure if viewers can see that, but
oh
Elysium
yeah.
basis, they give NR and pterostilbene
Oh,
inside one
okay.
supplement, and so I was like, might as well take that,
Awesome.
instead of an NMN.
As far as I know, bee propolis is a natural form of that. It has a bunch of it.
Okay.
So I need to add bee pollen, but I take a bunch of stuff also just to help me sleep. I think a sleep strategy is great for anti-aging. You just sleep as long as possible. Sometimes I get insomnia, so a lot of my supplement protocol is geared towards helping me sleep a good long night's sleep as much as I can get it. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I think I've read a study where like people, I'll try to find it and put it on the screen, but people who live next to like airports, I think, have a lower life expectancy because of the noise. Um, and so, yeah, disrupting sleep isn't good. So, yeah, sleep's really important, which is kind of everyone should know.
right. Like ashwagandha, that's one of the supplements I take for sleep, and I take quite a few different herbs, like adaptogenic herbs. I like astragalus. That's supposed to help with the telomeres,
Yeah.
keeping the telomeres long. There's a few high-end supplements that like take just the tips of astragalus and like concentrate it down, and those things are ridiculously expensive. So I just stick with the whole herb astragalus to make astragalus teas. I like a lot of different Chinese herbs.
Okay.
Ramania is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
A
Yeah, they
lot
have
of
some good stuff over
herbs.
there.
Yeah, I'm really into a lot of the medicinal mushrooms, chaga, reishi, especially lion's mane, because I'm working on my brain health. I feel like I might have gotten brain damage a long time ago because I went to a chiropractor and they x-rayed my brain, and I feel like that could have given me brain damage because I literally felt the x-ray, and you're not supposed to feel an x-ray. So I got this idea that maybe I'd exposed to radiation. So I'm really trying to work on
Jeez.
my brain health, brain
Yeah, dude.
repair.
Be careful with chiropractors, man.
Yeah.
They're there's a lot of horrific stories about them. Um, but so about telomeres, an impressive trial is being done by Dr. Bill Andrews. Have you talked to him for your channel yet?
I'm I want to. I'm planning on it.
Yeah,
So yeah.
he's really great. He's the master of trying to extend
I
telomeres.
did meet him in person. I did talk to him at a
Okay.
conference, but I haven't gotten the chance to actually interview him yet. So hopefully that'll be on the horizon.
Yeah, man, just give him an email. His company is Sierra Sciences. He's in, and so yeah, I think he tried helping Liz Parrish extend her telomeres. I think so. I don't know. But man, like there's some like there's quite a bit of scientists who think telomeres, extending telomeres, will cause cancer, and
Right.
like even the Nobel Prize winner, who discovered, I think, like telomerase or whatever inside like some microorganism. I don't know. Bill Andrews is the one who discovered it inside humans, but he didn't get the Nobel Prize because the Nobel Prize, they try to go back to like who initially like discovered the entire like field or whatever. Um, and so Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn is the one that got the Nobel Prize, but she's going around even till today telling people like it's going to cause nasty cancers if you try to use some sort of telomerase in humans, which like yeah, if you obviously something bad can happen if you don't use it correctly, and but we should clearly start doing clinical trials on it, because not only have we extended mice lifespan with I think TERT, which is like a subunit of telomerase, we extended the lifespan by like 24%. So it's like no cancers occurred, like they live longer. So you can stop saying that, Dr. Blackburn. But but also, it's about time. And Dr. Bill Andrews has a human trial occurring right now at Labella Therapeutics
Mm-hmm.
right now. So yeah, dude, you should definitely give him a call.
Oh,
Email him.
definitely. Do you
That'd be
take
sweet
any?
talk.
Do you take any nootropics? That's a topic I'm really into lately. I've been trying to spend a lot more time studying nootropics.
Okay.
Do you take any, like for your
No,
brain?
no, I
No.
don't. Um, yeah, I looked a little bit. I started to look a little bit into like ways to enhance my cognition, because like you think that would be like a way bigger field, and like we'd have some stuff by now that like increases our IQ to like 150 or something. Like
Mm-hmm.
that'd be really helpful because like I'm not the smartest person. Like I want to increase my intelligence.
Me
It's kind
too. Me too.
of,
I'm right
kind
there
of
with
annoying.
you. That's how I feel. I'm
Yeah.
always looking for ways to give myself an edge. And I want to be like the guy in uh gosh, what's that movie where Limitless. I want to be. I want the
Yeah.
limit. I want the Limitless pill. So I'm always looking for these. What the biohackers are doing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, man. Augmenting our intelligence, that's a pretty intense frontier that I don't think people are concerned enough about. Like you increase someone's intelligence, like imagine like increasing your intellect to like 300.
mm-hmm.
That'd give you a huge, massive edge. I think you'd have almost like an intelligence escape velocity, um, where like you increase it to 300, and then with that 300 IQ, you can figure out how to increase it even more, and then
Mm-hmm.
so on. And what do we do to apes? They have no chance against our intellect, and
Right.
so with increasing your cognition, that's what would occur with humans, right? Like we'd be like monkeys compared to those people, and that's one of the reasons why artificial intelligence is so scary, because it'll surpass our intellect in every way possible, and so it's like frick, these things are gonna like we're gonna have no say in like what they
Right.
do because they'll be so much smarter. Monkeys have no
Right.
say with what
Everything
we
you're
say
talking
do.
about right now reminds me of that movie Lucy. Did you ever see that movie Lucy?
Oh yeah,
It's
that's
like
pretty cool.
about everything you're talking about now, like where
What I really wanted to bring up was, which I think is like the most important website right now. One of the most important is everyone should Google Hager. Just Google it. Human Aging Genomics Resources, I think. I gotta double check. I don't know. But I'm actually gonna contact the founder soon, because I was planning on making a website like theirs because I've been collecting a bunch of different life extension treatments, studies in mice specifically, and focusing on treatments that have indicated a 15% increase in average, median, or maximum lifespan or more. And so far, I found like maybe like 200 different methods to do that. Maybe 150 different methods. I got to count it. But and a lot of them have been replicated, and there's a lot of great research on it. And so, but I found out recently that this website, Google Hager, and you'll find it. They did what I wanted to do, and so I was going to contact them soon. Hopefully, talk to the founder, Doctor like Pedro Magajules or something. I don't really know Spanish that well. And so, and they have a whole list of the treatments, you know, and so you can just a scientist can just go there, or a layperson if they want to take something experimentally, and they can just go there and check, which treatments they want to try to translate into humans, or what they want to take, whatever. And I was going to donate a bunch of mine to them because they don't have like barely any of mine. And so highly recommend everyone go to that website, check it out. It needs to become way more hyped than it is right now. Uh,
right.
and so I'll put a link like somewhere, in the description and stuff. But
If we have another conversation, something else we could talk about in our next talk is like dietary strategies for life extension. There's a
yeah,
whole thing right there as far as like caloric restriction, intermittent fasting. What's the
yeah,
best diet? Should it be high protein? Should it be high fat? Should it be high carb? We could go into that. That'd be interesting.
oh yeah, man. Yeah, it's the last 2 weeks I've actually been diving into different diets that extend lifespan, different diets that don't extend lifespan, in model organisms so far. And there's even some good human clinical trials. but there's actually quite a bit more than I thought there was. You know, like even the keto diet has demonstrated, that has indicated life extension results that are pretty impressive too. And so, yeah, we can talk about that next time. I actually got to get going.
All right.
But yeah, it's so odd that, you know, I never hear nutritionists talk about life extension diets. Never hear, you know, it's like what's going on, man? Like why are more people talking about this?
Why
So
don't more people want to live forever? Why are more people obsessed with eternal life?
yeah, for real.
And
Yeah,
health?
there really is like almost like a click, you know, like when you really comprehend how truly important it is to continue to live and not die. It's gonna be incredible once this is mainstream and that click occurs to everyone. So, yeah, make sure you subscribe to Eternal Life Fans Club. Subscribe to my channel, Life Extension Research, and help us get this research out there to everyone so that we can freaking once and for all stop suffering so much and dying from diseases.
Absolutely, you said it. And all the Eternal Life fans, go subscribe to Bobby's channel. Link will be in the description.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Yeah, it was great talking to you, Roen. I gotta get going because